Well, hi, everybody. A very pleasant and warm day to you, wherever you might be on this beautiful day here in East County. And for the San Diego Padres, finally, it is a beautiful day. Steve Dolan here with Ramon Scott. As you know, last night, Ramon, the Padres finally broke that streak of being 0-4 in games after they played the Dodgers, breaking out last night with a big 12-3 win in Arizona. Of course, a lot of positives in that game. I thought one of the biggest things, the Padres were 7 for 11 with runners in scoring position, a category where they've been very bad this year. Of course, the bad being Ryan Weathers coming out after one inning. They're calling it joint inflammation now. They say that it's not a ligament, so we'll see from there. But anyway, Ramon, your take on what's going on with the Padres right now.
Well, and there are other positives, I thought, to the circumstances surrounding last night's game and the negatives as well. I mean, we're trying to piece together this pitching situation. This is not going to hold up over the long term to be a championship club if these type of injuries keep occurring to these guys. But we know that Lamet threw bullpen. We know Kayla threw bullpen. And who did they throw it to? Austin Nola. And Nola makes his appearance with the club. And Steve, I think the most important news to me coming out of the whole series is Nola's return. I really think that his return to the team can kind of get us back to winning more games. I mean, we're playing great in the games that we're winning, and the games that we're losing are usually pretty tightly contested games. So we have a great ball club. Everyone knows that. But you could see some of the frustration building with the Padres pitching to – Caratini's got a little bit more experience. Campusano's got a long way to go, but did a very admirable job and maybe called on to do some more things. But you could see the Padres growing a little bit weary, those veteran pitchers, when they're having to work with Campusano and having Nola not only for his work behind the plate, but at a position where if you can get any production at all, it's key. We know he's a fine hitter as a catcher. So I think that's the biggest thing moving forward. I think we're going to see better days ahead. As fun as this has been, and again, we make light of the record because we're barely scratching above 500, really. But it's been a great month, and this is going to be the turning point, in my opinion. Nola's return.
Yeah, Ramon, I'm with you on that. Just a little bit on the catcher, Austin Nola, who came over last night. It's interesting because, of course, the Padres' so-called alternate site is in Peoria, Arizona, right next to where the Padres were playing in Phoenix. In last night's lineup, the original lineup, Luis Campusano was batting seventh and catching, but the Padres decided about half hour before the game that Campusano went over the alternate site. Aaron Nola, who was already there, who'd already warmed up, joined the roster. Caratini caught last night. Of course, he'll catch tomorrow night because he's the personal catcher for Yu Darvish, but I expect Austin Nola to make his first catching appearance Saturday night against the Giants when Blake Snell pitches. It was interesting with Aaron Nola last night because he was the last guy on the Padres bench in the ninth inning when Arizona had given up and was pitching the infielder Escobar. Nola flied out to right. It's hard to hit against when you have a position player. But what I thought was interesting, Aaron Nola went to second base, and then Ha-Seong Kim, who was playing second, went to third in the ninth inning to get Manny Machado off his feet. Lo and behold, what does the second batter do? He hits a ground ball to Kim. Kim to Nola to Eric Hosmer. I thought Austin Nola did a good job of turning that double play because, as you know, he used to be a middle infielder. So he's going to help the Padres, like you say, Ramon, a lot as a catcher. But also, if you're in need of a middle infielder, he certainly can fill in.
Well, the Padres do brag a little bit about their ability to be flexible with their position players, with their utility players. They kind of brag about it maybe as being some of the best in the league, as having those versatile players, which, in today's game is looking more and more important. But I would question whether or not those guys are always able to perform at above average major league ability at some of those positions. I'm not going to pinpoint last night's switches, for example, or, even the outfield switches. But I think it's just more the consistency in the fielding positions is what the Padres need to get that defense shored up. I mean, the big talk is about Tatis's 10 errors now at this point and how that just some focus really is what he needs. So I'm not so sure about that. I mean, we need to see way more consistency from him defensively. Remember, missed all those games too, and he still has so many more errors than any player in the league. So that's a concern. But I do think that moving forward, just having the stability is what we're looking for. And I don't know if we'll get to that, but I think having Nola back, not only for his bat, but his calling of the games is going to be a good place to start as we get the Giants.
Yes, get the Giants this weekend for 3. You know, the Padres are 2.5 games behind the first place Giants and Dodgers, who are tied for first. And going back to Tatis, yes, he does lead the majors with 10 errors. Of course, the bright side is, you know, he hit 5 home runs in 3 games against the Dodgers over the weekend. And also his batting average has doubled from 131 to 262 since he's come back. One thing though, Ramon, a big concern, you mentioned earlier, the starting pitchers. I mean, Ryan Weathers went out last night after an inning when he was hurt. You had Lamet go out when he was hurt. You had Adrian Morejon go out when he was hurt. You had Blake Snell come out when he couldn't get out of the first inning. In fact, in their last 17 games, 6 times the Padres have had to go to the bullpen for at least 7 innings. That's 35% of the time they've had to go the bullpen for that long. Last night, they go to the bullpen for 8 innings. Let me just read you who came in after Ryan Weathers. You know, Nick Ramirez pitches 2 innings. Aaron Norcraft pitches an inning, gets his first major league win. Austin Adams, Emilio Pagan, Tim Hill, Drew Pomerantz, Mark Melancon. What was interesting the last 2 innings last night, the 12-3 win, is that they went with Pomerantz and Melancon, who were their 8th and 9th inning guys, just to get them some work, and it made sense. I'm just glad Melancon got out of the 9th inning quickly, because a lot of times when you get your closer in there with a 9-run lead, they don't do well. But he did go, you know, he got 3 batters, 3 outs, including the double play. So I like that part of last night's game.
I don't have a problem with that either, although, you know, we're trying to get rest for everybody. And, you know, in a game like that, look, we've seen some crazy comebacks this year, so not going to, you know, take any situation lightly. But, you know, they're doing their job. That's the call of the pitching coach and the manager to make, not for me to make. So I will say this about how, you know, Weathers was handled and his exit from the game. And I think this is important when you look at also the injury to Lamet and how he's been nursed back along. And I think how all of our pitchers, especially the ones recently injured, have been nursed back along. You know, it's really underrated how the teams are tracking the velocity and going out and being proactive. And I think this is very important moving forward. It didn't always used to be this way, but it's obvious, right? I mean, especially now if you go out there and I guess if the pitcher explains that, you know, he's dealing more off speed or what, those are the calls. I mean, they know the calls. I'm just saying if a guy says he's just, you know, down 2 or 3 miles per hour for that performance and he denies any pain or anything. That was the thing with Weathers. Did he at first, when they first came out, express to him that he did feel that tinge in his arm as the Padres staff asked him if there was a problem because they noticed the velocities down, and then having to come get him again and getting that more honest response from him that yes, maybe he did feel something, especially for someone who's performed so well so far. And you know, maybe the Padres are a little bit guilty sometimes of rushing all these pitchers. You know, we've wanted them to get here soon. These aren't all necessarily the guys that we thought would be here. We found some gems, maybe, you know, a gem in the rough, if you will. We found a couple pitchers as well, but they get injuries, and I don't know if it's the way the workload is now, Steve, the way the structure of the minor leagues and the alternate sites is set up. You wonder if these guys are, you know, getting the best workouts possible anymore, the best game situations moving forward with the pandemic, combined with the, you know, reduction of staff and personnel in baseball organizations throughout the organizations. I'm talking about the lower levels. If, you know, players are being rushed and things like that, but that's neither here nor there. Just want to see this pitcher get back. Anytime you get a pitcher like him, we talked about him on the last show. Weathers looks like an interesting prospect moving forward. So be proactive. Let's go get those guys early, just to be honest with your trainer if you feel something, because obviously he was doing very well.
Yeah, let's be honest with Ryan Weathers. He probably wasn't going to be in the rotation all year anyway. I'll be curious to see what they do when he comes back. He pitched 96 innings in the minor leagues 2 years ago, and then last year, he pitched a whole inning and a third in the playoffs against the Dodgers. So it's going to be interesting now to see what they do with Weathers when he comes back. One thing I will say, and I'm not talking about the Padres now, I'm talking about Major League Baseball. Last week on an FS1 game, Hall of Famer John Smoltz talking about pitchers. His opinion is that they baby guys too much, and that's why they get so many injuries. He said that in so many words, and all I'm going to say is I'm not going to argue with the Hall of Famer John Smoltz. But Ramon, going back to last night's game, one thing I did like again was when the Padres got down 2-0 early. I think there was a lot of here we go again. They can't win a game in a series after they play the Dodgers. Then all of a sudden, the fifth inning, the first 7 guys got hits. That tied a team record. 7 straight hits to start an inning. One more hit, 8 hits in a row would have tied a team record forever. The 7 hits tied for the start of an inning. The 8 would have tied a forever record. Let's look at what happened. You had, Profar leads off with a single, Caratini singles, Kim singles in a run, and on that play, an Air scores a second run. Then you have Tommy Pham come up and pinch hit, who could hardly walk, it seemed like. He gets a single. And when he gets to third base, of course, Joe Musgrove from East County has to run for him. Tatis gets a single and an RBI. Grisham gets a single. Then Manny Machado gets a bases-clearing triple to score 3 runs. So I thought the big thing again last night for the Padres, sadly the Weathers went out the way he did, but the hitting, because again, they've had really a lot of trouble with runners in scoring position. The first game in Arizona, they were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position when they lost 5-1. Last night, sounded like a convenience store. They were 7-11 with runners in scoring position. So I thought that was great. That was by far, that was their most runs and most hits in a game. But just the fact that they were hitting in the clutch is what really stuck with me.
Yeah, for those they talked about the hits and how that hasn't happened in quite a while. And Steve, when you hear things, and we're talking about, is this club, better than we expect, as far as just being barely a 500 club so far. When you hear things like this, when you hear things like about that record comeback, things that aren't done for decades or a century, and that for that matter, that's the sign of a historic club, that can do some things long term in that season. When you hear records like that, you never hear, really bad teams get things like that happening to them multiple times during a season. So I think that's what you can hang your hat on early with this club. I mean, they have the potential to be, one of the top clubs, no doubt, throughout this season. When you hear teams record-setting performances by a club, usually that does play out long-term and shows that, it's an elite club. So right now it's just a matter of, like the pitching injuries just add up. That's why we lead the league in innings pitched by the bullpen, Steve. I mean, by far, right? And as far as driving in runs, maybe we talk about how great Fernando's been in his part-time so far with his power, but the Padres lack power, and we're having to do it, through running. I mean, like we said, the Padres are not playing the same type of baseball that many of the other teams, especially the top teams in the league, are playing right now. The Padres do it with small ball. I don't know. I don't even want to call it that, because that's such a term that, is looked upon with such disdain, but they're doing it with running ball. It's almost like we have Gene Richards, Ozzie Smith, and Jerry Mumphrey out there, Steve. The Padres run so much more than everybody else in the league. I mean, no team steals like those type of teams did back in the 70s and 80s, but the Padres are. So they need to power up a little bit. Padres need to power up to get those runs driven in. I think that's been the problem. Yes, clutch, but they're strikeouts. So driving in runs with some power, I think that's going to be something they're going to have to do moving forward.
Yeah, and Ramon, it's funny because you're talking about the way they run. You mentioned, going way back, Jerry Mumphrey, Ozzie Smith, Gene Richards. They had a season where all 3 of those guys stole 50 bases. All 3 of them stole 50 bases. You're not this season. You're going to have teams that won't steal 50 bases in 162 games. The Padres, as you know, like you say, lead the major leagues with 32 stolen bases. But, one thing that I think really got overlooked last night, we talk about history and all, the Padres had lost 11 straight games at Chase Field in Arizona. 11 straight. 3 last year, 7 the year before, then, of course, Tuesday night. What was interesting about that, that was the most games in a row the Diamondbacks have ever won at home against somebody. So it was nice to finally break the Arizona jinx, because that's something that is really doesn't get talked a lot about much, but it's something the Padres had to overcome to finally win a game in Arizona. When they won big. So that was good to see for them.
Yeah. When you have a streak like that, it kind of gets into your head a little bit. And the Padres, remember some big wins they've had, of course, in Arizona. So over the years, of course. But moving into this series, Steve, we can talk about the Giants coming into town and another team. They're playing above expectations, I'd say, at this point. We're looking up at the Giants, and I don't know if we thought that was necessarily going to be the case, but they're doing a real good job so far. So this is another tough series. We kind of made fun of it a little bit. I mean, the Padres have played a pretty tough schedule and faced some tough pitching, but I wouldn't say it necessarily is any easier here because, number one, the Giants are playing well, and, of course, it's more division play. So going to be some good crowds out there, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, there's, believe it or not, go to Padres.com if you want tickets, because there's still a limited number of tickets available, even with the limited seating for this weekend. And then, of course, next week when Pittsburgh comes in Monday through Wednesday, if you're a real baseball fan, you won't want to just see the Giants and Dodgers. You'll want to see the Pirates too. So anyway, going back to this weekend series, what's interesting, Ramon, about the Giants, they're getting old. You look at if Johnny Cueto's pitching, Posey's catching, Belt at first, Crawford at short, Longoria at third. In that scenario, everybody but the second baseman, who's in the infield, so to speak, their contract runs out either this year or next year. So the Giants are getting old, long in the tooth. A lot of these guys go back to, when the Giants won 3 out of 5 world championships between 2010 and 2014. So for the Giants, this is kind of a last hurrah for a lot of their veterans. But then again, one thing to watch out for is the Giants, after this season, especially after next season also, they're going to have a lot of money to spend on free agency. So watch out for these Giants.
Yeah, we're facing some pitchers, I'd say, over the series, but we'll counter. I want to get your feelings on what you think maybe will happen on Sunday, Steve. But, of course, tomorrow's game, it's off day today. Again, much needed rest again to the strange scenario, the 2 off days in the 4-game stretch, but this club has needed it. But you, Darvish, back tomorrow going up against Webb. In the first game of the series, Steve, and on Saturday, DeSclafani for the Giants, who came over from the Reds. He's done a real good job against Blake Snell. Not going to say anything yet about Snell and his season so far. Still April, and he can work through these things, I think, and I think he will. But on Sunday, then, Steve, Gausman, who really, I believe he's had a pretty good outing so far against us, right? But the Padres, are they undecided on Sunday? What do you think the plan is here?
They are undecided on Sunday, Ramon. The interesting thing is, if Dinelson Lamet is indeed healthy, there's a good chance he'll start Sunday. They want to get him back, in the rotation, and especially now with Ryan Weathers being hurt. In essence, he would take Weathers' spot. But also on Sunday, Joe Musgrove from East County out here at Grossmont High School, if he pitches Sunday, it'll be a 7th day instead of a 5th day, so he'd already be on 2 extra days rest. The question is, will they start Lamet Sunday coming off the injured list, or will Musgrove pitch with 2 extra days of rest on Sunday or 3 extra days on Monday against his old team, the Pittsburgh Pirates? Padres don't know yet. I mean, the thing, Ramon, is every time Lamet goes out there, you're always risking what you risked last time when he only went 2 innings, 29 pitches, because you just don't know. Would it be another bullpen day? I don't know this, but part of Sunday, whether you start Lamet, could be how rested your bullpen is. Because Darvish pitching Friday, he's given you 7 innings in each of his last 3 starts. That's been a lifesaver for that bullpen. But then you got Blake Snell in his 5 starts. He's never gone beyond 5 1/3. He pitches Saturday. So again, I think Sunday's game, they're not telling you this, but it could depend on how well rested the bullpen is, just in case you need them after Lamet. I'll be curious to see, because you mentioned again with Snell on Saturday, the big thing that Blake Snell needs to do is keep his pitch count down. Yeah, his last game in LA, they took him out after 87 pitches. They had him on a 90-pitch count. A lot of people were mad that Pierce Johnson came in and lost the game and blamed it on Jace Tingler. You can blame it on Tingler, except for the fact that he was just going by the script, the same script that Kevin Cash had when he was managing Tampa Bay with Blake Snell. So the biggest thing this weekend, I think everybody wants to see on Saturday, is see Blake Snell go deeper in a game. And I think Blake Snell wants to go deeper in a game. So let's see what happens.
Well, I would expect Musgrove to pitch on Sunday, but I'll wait and see as well, and see what happens with what you said. I just know that I've already we had the last situation that came up, Steve, where I was asked to speculate, but the Padres had not really announced. I got it wrong, so I just don't want to be wrong this time. And I think we can safely say that we're not sure at this point. I mean, I think they're listing it as TBD, but the projection would say that it's going to be Musgrove's spot. So I'd rather see Musgrove in there against Gausman in that one. But yeah, I mean, maybe the Giants are doing it with smoke and mirrors, but certainly this lineup has potential. And I think that given the somewhat of a rivalry with the Padres, the intensity is going to be there for this series, especially when they've gotten off to a decent start record-wise. So I think they have a little bit of hope in their season so far, even though it's only just a month in.
Yeah, Ramon, like you say, the Giants have caught fire early. But what's interesting, last year they also caught fire at one point. We've talked about it before. All the Giants needed to do to get in the playoffs last year was win one of their last 3 games against the Padres, and the Padres were playing for nothing at that time. They were already in the playoffs. So we'll see this weekend how real maybe the Giants are, because as you know, what's interesting, Ramon, and I don't get this, on the scheduling, this will be the second time the Giants have come to San Diego already. So 2 of their 3 series in San Diego during the first month of the season, and then they'll only come here one more time the last 5 months. Another thing that's interesting about the Giants, as much as we always talk about the Padre-Dodger rivalry, which I do believe is the number 1 rivalry in baseball, historically, as you know, the Dodgers and the Giants are each other's number 1 rival, and they haven't played each other yet. So I'm curious to see certainly how well the Padres do against the Giants this weekend, but also how well the Giants do against the Dodgers, because last year, one of the reasons the Giants did so well is because they did hold their own against the Dodgers.
I think that's the nature of this division. I mean, even the Rockies can jump up and bite you at this point. So there's some tough baseball being played here. Some of the other divisions have some weak sisters in there, and I'm not so sure that's the case with the National League West. I think even Colorado, despite their start, I mean, they're expected to be down there near the bottom. They just have single-digit wins so far. But you look at some of the metrics, they talk about how, percentage chances to make the playoffs still, even though the Giants are ahead of us in the standings. You look at some of the metrics, the Giants are still under 20% chance to make the playoffs, while, the Padres and the Dodgers, of course, the Dodgers well over 95%, the Padres are in the 90 percentile as well. So, that's the way you look at it. I mean, the Giants are off to a nice start, and then, hey, that's why the Padres have to take them seriously. And this is a series where they can make up that ground on the Giants. So 3 interesting start times in this one. And how does that affect you, Steve?
Yeah, I know. As a statistician for Valley Sports San Diego, Ramon, one thing I've learned over the years is it's going to be a different time every day, like you see there. I mean, it's going to be hard on the players because it seems like you never play more than 2 games in a row at the same time. It used to be, you knew every game was at 7 o'clock, and then you'd have a 1 o'clock game on Sunday and maybe a 1 o'clock day game in the middle of the week. So I think that's, going to be interesting to get a different time every night. Another thing, Ramon, that's really interesting going into this weekend too, like you say, the Padres are 14-12 overall. They're 2.5 games behind the first place Dodgers and Giants. They sweep the Giants, they go ahead of the Giants. Here's something, though, the Padres need to start doing. They need to start winning at home. The Padres at home are 5-8. On the road, they're 9-4. I really say on this homestand, I just think, it's asking a lot, but I think they're capable of 5 out of 6. I think if you break it down, should be hopefully beat the Giants 2 out of 3. I think they've got to sweep Pittsburgh. This is the last time they played Pittsburgh. I know the Pirates are about a 500 team now. They're not going to be that way at the end of the season. So, when you play teams like the Pirates, you got to do better than split with them like the Padres did in Pittsburgh. As I say, I think really a good homestand would be 5-1, 4-2 would be okay, and just to split this homestand, no, the Padres have to start winning at home. It's interesting that so far the fans of Padre games usually go home unhappy because it seems like the visiting teams are winning 2/3 of the time. They got to change that this weekend.
Well, when I look at sports, no matter what sport, the thing sometimes, one of the sites that I use, it divides the home and away. It seems to make obvious sense, but to me, I always look at the away record, and I think when you look at the standings, even in the paper, for example, when you look at the away record, to me, that's the standard that you should go by, how the team does when they are away from home, because those are the most important. You see, usually the championship clubs are always going to have the better away record. Most of the time, some interesting things can happen, but winning away from home shows that you're a good ball club, and maybe there's a comfortability that the Padres are not putting enough pressure on themselves to win some of these games, and they're usually getting – that's kind of the thing about being a good team, Steve. You're kind of getting the other team's best shot sometimes, and we've seen that in some of the matchups of the rotation so far. So I think that still bodes well that they can even out that record at home and then some, and they will, especially as the weeks, I won't say drag on, maybe that's just what we're used to with our seasons. They drag on, but once the winning starts, put together a little winning streak. That's all you need to do. We talked about that in the last show. So that's what we're going to need to do moving forward with this club. Steve, you mentioned the work of the bullpen and how much they've worked, but there's some names in there that, are we going to see some of those guys that are at the end of the bullpen? They're doing great job. They're doing a great job. You mentioned the newcomer. You mentioned Ramirez. Which guys are going to stay around, and which relievers will we see? Do you know if there'll be changes there? Are we expecting those guys to be part of the staff all year?
Ramon, what's going to happen, though, is you're going to see a lot of up and downs. You're going to see, for instance, what happens a lot of times, you'll see Nick Ramirez and Aaron Northcraft both pitched last night, but they both also go through this stretch where you'll see a reliever come in and throw 35, 40 pitches, and unless it's one of the guys who's going to be here all year, they're going to be going up and down. So you're going to see a lot of up and downs. I'll tell you, the guys who will stay up here, I've got to look at my scorecard real quick, but Craig Stammen and Pierce Johnson did not pitch last night. They'll be here. I would say guys that pitched last night, Austin Adams, Emilio Pagan, Tim Hill, Drew Pomerantz, Mark Melanson, they're all going to be here. And I'll tell you what, speaking of the bullpen, the one guy that's impressed me the most, Tim Hill, what a rubber arm. He pitched 3 out of 4 games against the Dodgers. Last night he pitched an inning and a third, and he's coming in not when you're ahead or behind 8-1. He's coming in high leverage situations, the game's on the line. So I think Tim Hill, of all guys in that bullpen, is probably one of the most, if not the most underrated relief pitchers in the entire National League.
Well, I think the Padres knew what they were getting when they went after to get Tim Hill, and I think they're using him exactly what, I thought maybe that's a lot of work, but I think that's what they were looking for when they got that type of reliever. So I think you're right. I think there'll be a situation, and we mentioned Kayla working a little bit as well and how important he is to the club and the clubhouse too. So I think that that's what we'll see. But to me, as we said when we started the show, Steve, I think Nola, you want that stability. You need that rock behind the plate. You need your catcher. And I think once he gets fully acclimated back in there, I think that's when we'll see some things turn around. As great of a job that this pitching staff has done. Like I said, some of the veterans, kind of brushed aside Campusano a little bit. We saw that his role was reduced. Yes, he struggled at the plate as well, which, accounts for that as well. And Caratini stepped up and did a nice job. Caratini, should be the backup. And I think that's going to be key long-term, having Nola in the lineup as the catcher. And again, just the stability moving forward, getting all these guys to stay in their positions if we can. I guess it's not like the old days. You ran the same 8 guys out there every day.
No, not at all. Again, be interesting to see when Aaron Nola, he'll catch Blake Snell on Saturday night. And of course, Friday night with you, Darvish will be caught by Victor Caratini, who's his own catcher. Now, Ramon, I know we're out of time for today, but again, a big 3-game series this weekend. Padres are the Giants in town, and then after the Giants, Pittsburgh comes in town Monday through Wednesday before another off day next Thursday. Ramon, I want to thank you so much for being with me today, and I want to let you have the final say.
Hey, let's get the brooms out. We need one. We need to get this thing rolling and get a sweep of the Giants this weekend.